Let's go ahead and take knees to the floor. We're going to work into some finishing poses. So we've done a lot of standing poses. We've really flowed through the Vinyasa sequence, but we want to wrap up our practice with some additional yoga components. So we're going to start thinking about inversions. So I'm not going to show any full-on inversions in this particular video, just because sometimes they need a wall and they can take a little bit more instruction and there's some safety concerns, but we're going to work on dolphin pose, which is a great inversion prep, and a lot of people use it in place of inversions all the time anyway. So we're going to take the forearms to the ground with the elbows under shoulders. We're going to interlace the fingers, press those forearms down, tuck your toes, lift your knees and hips. This is going to work our shoulders, but also the core. Now, make sure your head's not touching the floor. If your head is resting on the floor, or even if it's just resting on your hands, push the forearms down more, lift up. You should be able to swing your head without it touching the ground. So we're not using our neck, we're using our arms. Now, if you can, take your right leg up into the air. Lift the foot, so really try to get the leg up over the hip. Maybe lift your left heel and get higher up here, and then take your right foot down, nice and slow and controlled, and take your left leg up. Keep your hips up the whole time. So really control this, lifting from the center of your body. And then let's take those toes to the floor, take the knees to the floor, take the hips to the heels. Give yourself a child's pose here. Yes. Let it go. Forearms down, hips down, breathe. And we're going to do one more, and I'm going to give you an add-on, but this is optional. And honestly, even the leg lifting is optional. Let's be honest, every pose is optional. It's up to you. If you want to take a chill and take another child's pose, do it. Forearms to the ground, interlace fingers, press those forearms. Same thing, so tuck toes, lift knees and hips. Now, if you're going for it, take that right leg into the air, and then optional, keep the right leg straight, bend your left knee, little hop up off your left toes, get yourself airborne. Please don't flip yourself over. We're not actually trying to come upside down. We're just hopping for fun. Take the right foot to the floor, take the left leg up, second side. Left leg stay straight. This is really hard, so as you bend your right knee to get the hop, oftentimes people want to bend that top knee too. See if you can keep the top leg straight as you're bending that bottom knee. Get used to landing softly. Toes to the floor, knees to the floor. All right, a child's pose again. Let's take the arms out, and this time if you want, flip your palms up, bend your elbows, rest your hands on your shoulders for a nice little tricep stretch. Breathe. Okay, let's come on up to the knees. Now, we're going to do a little bit of back bend practice here. There are 3 major back bends, and usually we'll do maybe 2 to 3 of one of the back bends, but I'm actually going to talk through each of the 3 back bends, just so there's some familiarity with all of them. So the first one that's easiest to access from where we're at right now is camel pose, Ustrasana. So really, you'll notice that we do all 3 of these back bends, that they're very similar in shape. What they're different in is the relationship of our body to gravity. So here, let's go ahead and tuck the toes. We want to keep the hips over the knees, and that's actually pretty important. If we start to let the hips move back, we start to crunch the low back as we back bend, and that is not what we want. We want to actually work the upper back, use the core, and protect the low back. So we're thinking of really stabilizing through this area here, keeping the hips over the knees. Then the hand's going to come to the waist, and that's actually a good reminder. You're tucking your tail. Chin can be in, or if it feels okay with your neck, your head goes back, but the heart is puffing up, and you're using those shoulders snugging into the upper back to move the chest forward. Now, if and only if it's easy, reach down and grab your heels with your hands. Now, if you find those heels just are not available, put your hands back on your waist. Push down to lift up. Keep your hips moving forward so that they're staying over your knees. Very hard to talk like this. When you're ready to come up, support your waist. Keep breathing. Head comes up last if the head is back. And let's sit back on the heels. Back bends can be challenging, but they can be invigorating. They can be very therapeutic as long as they're done correctly. So really paying attention to your alignment, and if your body is giving you any signals of pain, please back off. Okay, so let's go ahead and come to our belly, and we'll do a bow pose. So here, the idea, when we were on our knees, I said keep your hips over your knees. Well now, here, because of the floor, the hips are not going to be able to like pop up and get, you know what I mean? So the relationship of the hips and knees is kind of guaranteed because of the floor. Bend your knees. If you can't reach your feet, you can stay here and just take a Sphinx or a Cobra, one of the ones we've done earlier that we did during our Vinyasa practice. But if you're able to reach for the feet, draw your shoulder blades together, press your pelvis down so you can activate that, even though it seems like, well, where can it go but down? But you can push it down a little more. Now, you might keep the thighs on the floor. As you pull the heels away from the hips, the shoulders draw back. If you're looking for something more vigorous, let those thighs lift and the feet reach to the ceiling. Try not to let the knees go wide, so they should be no wider than your shoulders here. Make sure you can breathe. Neck is in line with the spine, so it's not head way back, nor is it head dropped, but just nice and easy here, looking forward, breathing. And then when you're ready to come down, slowly lower. Take your forehead to the floor on your hands, or you can turn your head to one side. And then the last back bend that we can work on is a bridge. So we can just roll right over on our mat here and come to our back. If that feels awkward to you, you can get up and come to your back some other way. So here now we're going to bend the knees. And this pose is really activated by the feet. We want to have the feet just slightly away from the hips, but there's a little space, so they're not all the way to the hips, a couple inches. Press your feet down, make sure your toes are forward, lift your hips up. So this is very small version, but we can get a little higher by using the arms. So there's two ways to do that. The way that I like the best is to roll to one shoulder and then pull the other shoulder under and let the arm extend, and then roll to that shoulder and pull the other shoulder under and see if you can interlace your fingers. Now, if that's not possible, it's okay. What you can do instead is just put your upper arms on the ground, push down, and point your fingers to the ceiling so that you can activate now through the feet and through the arms. You're pushing down to lift up. And it's the same thing. If your arms are underneath you, you're just a little higher off the floor. Press down, open the front of the body. The chin is kind of pointing towards the ceiling. Try not to turn the head from side to side here. Breathe. And then get the shoulders out of the way, one at a time, roll them out of the way, roll your spine back to the floor. After back bends, twists are great. So we're gonna pull the knees in, and we're gonna take the arms, actually let's just pull just the right knee in and take the left leg and extend it out on the floor. Now you can take your right arm straight out or like a little goalpost, depending on how much space you have really, and then use your left hand to pull the right leg across the body to the floor, let it drop down, let your low body twist, but now turn your head back to the right so your head is away from your leg. Breathe here. This should feel good, and it's nice to be on the floor after being on our feet for such a long time. And then come back through center. And we'll just switch to the other leg. So pull your left knee in, straighten the right leg out. Maybe hug that knee in a little bit. And then use the right hand to pull the left knee across the body to the right. And then extend your left arm and turn your head to the left. Make sure you're breathing here. So keep with that Ujjayi practice. Even though we're not flowing from pose to pose, it still keeps you connected. Come back to center. Hold on to your shins. We're gonna rock from shoulders to hips a few times. And the last time, we're gonna roll up to boat pose, which is a seated balance pose where we're actually working the core. So see if you can roll up and not let the feet come to the floor. Extend the shins out, take the arms out in front of you and lift the heart. So that's kind of a fun way to come into it, but we'll do another one and I'll show you maybe a little bit more specific way to come into it. So from here, let's go ahead and take the feet to the floor. We're going to take the hands behind the back and plug in the shoulders and take a little reverse table. So press the feet down. Try to get your hips up as high as the knees. You can keep your chin in, or if you like, you can take your head back. This is sort of like camel. If you're taking your head back, try to let it go all the way back. If that does not feel good, tuck your chin in. And then sit bones back to the floor. So we're going to do one more boat pose. And this is core work, but it is actually also a balance pose. So walk the feet in so you can kind of just tap the toes on the floor. Bring your hands behind your thighs and then pull against your thighs to pull your shoulder blades together and lift your heart. Now from here, see if you can keep your shape but lift your shins off the floor, level with your knees. Now see if you can keep your shape, let go with your hands and let the arms extend and breathe. Now, when we come out of this, we're actually going to put the feet on the floor and see if we can rock ourselves into a standing forward fold. So, maybe a little momentum, maybe use your hands if you need to. Feet come to the floor. Oh, forward fold. Now we're going to go back to down dog, but look, if you don't want to take that vinyasa, just step right back to downward facing dog. No problem at all. If you want to take a vinyasa, go for it. Now let's take the right leg into the air. We're going to open the hip and bend the top knee, pointing the knee to the sky as the heel drops to the left hip. So this is another variation on down dog splits. We're opening the hips but keeping shoulders level. Now we're going to move the knee forward. We're going to set up for a pigeon stretch here, which is a really nice, kind of restorative but deep stretch. We're going to use the left toes to walk the left leg back so you're getting on top of that left thigh. Extend the foot behind you. Your right shin is across the mat. If this is hard on your knee, there is a variation can be done on your back. I'll show it in a minute. But if you're able to be here and you're not really sitting on the foot, the shin is at an angle, you're going to fold down and you should feel a stretch in that right hip glute area. Come on down. Give up the weight and breathe. Now, if for you, this right knee is giving you a hard time, then don't put pressure on it by folding into it that way. Instead, you'll come to your back again. Cross your right ankle above your left knee, reach behind your left thigh, put your head and shoulders on the floor, and then just gently draw your left thigh towards you. Your right knee is going to come in, and you should feel the stretch in the right hip. You can press your right knee away with your right elbow. And then as we switch sides, you'll stay here and you can go ahead and just change. So you don't have to go back through down dog and everything. If you're not on your back though, you're just folding over that right knee, maybe letting yourself get a little deeper breath by breath. If you were on your forearms, but you can give in more, walk the hands out, maybe forehead to the floor, breathe. And then if you're folded forward, you're going to come up carefully and we're going to stretch the back thigh. So if you're able, support yourself with your right fingers. Try not to rock to your right hip, but keep yourself up. Bend your left knee, reach back with your left hand and pull that heel towards the hip. Do the best you can here. If you have a hard time actually reaching the foot, just keep the leg extended behind you and just move your torso more up. Ideally, we want to get the shoulders over the hips. Even if you've got that foot, instead of leaning way forward to get it, see if you can come more up, shoulders over hips. And then we'll let that go, hands to the floor. Now if you're on your back, you can just change sides, but for everyone else, coming back to down dog, shake out the right leg or kick through the heel, and we'll do the other side. So take the left leg into the air, open the hip, bend the knee, point the knee to the sky, and then pull the knee forward behind the left wrist. Let the shin cross the mat. Use the right toes to help walk the right leg back so you're really firmly on that right thigh. Foot should be straight behind you and then fold. And if you're on your back, you've changed to your other leg, but we're all going to just give it maybe 10 breaths or so here. Stay with that ujjayi. Hip openers can sometimes be intense. We do tend to hold some of our tension, which can be connected to emotion in our hips. So you might feel some of that kind of start to come through as you start to release some of that tension. So be patient, make sure you're really breathing and letting go as you're ready. And then when you're ready to come on up, use your left fingers to support you. Bend your right knee behind you. Reach back with your hand for your foot. If you're able to grab it, pull the heel in. Bring yourself up. And again, if you can't grab your foot, just keep your leg extended, but work towards bringing yourself up. Check that you've not rolled completely to your left hip. We want to stay as up as possible. Breathe. Let that go. And you're heading back to down dog. Shake out that left leg or kick through the heel. Breathe. And then inhale, look to the front of the mat. As you exhale, step, walk, hop, however you want to get there to the front. And we're going to come to a seat. And we're going to do one last finishing pose. So forward folds very often come at the end of class because they tend to move us inward. They tend to be a little calming. And usually at this point, we are so warm, our hamstrings are just ready to stretch. So we're going to take the right leg out, and I'm just turning to kind of an angle here to make it a little easier to see. We're going to take the sole of the left foot to the inner thigh. So see if you can flex your right toes back towards you, and that's going to help remind you to engage the leg so this quad is a little toned. We're going to angle our torso towards the right leg, and then just start to fold. Now, some people, easy to reach the foot, but please don't strain for it. So your hands can just as well be on the floor. We want to keep the leg engaged, but the upper body is actually very soft here. So you can let your hands rest. Keep the arms relaxed and passive. Maybe drop your head, close your eyes, and then just breathe. The leg again engaged, but the upper body is just giving into gravity, and we're letting gravity do all the work here. Don't pull, don't force, don't push, don't press, don't strain. Just try to let go a little. Now slowly walk your hands in and come on up, and we're going to do leg number 2. So take your left leg straight out, pull the sole of the right foot in, angle yourself towards your leg, flex your left foot, engage your left quad, just let that right knee drop open to the best of your ability, angle your torso towards your leg, and start to fold. And it might feel like you're working a little with the arms here, but pretty much maybe a little bit of lengthening as you inhale, but as you exhale, really just try to let go. Keep the breath flowing, Ujjayi fashion. So each and every breath is an opportunity to get deeper, but we're not trying to push it. We're really just doing what we can to give in and let the body open as it feels ready. And then slowly walk the hands in, come on up, and let's cross the legs. So this has been a full Vinyasa practice. At the end of every practice, we want to go to Shavasana, which is corpse pose, which basically is what it sounds like. You lay on your back and just let it go. So I am going to close this practice with you, and then I recommend that after the video is ended, just allow yourself to lie on your mat in stillness for 5 or 10 minutes, releasing the weight of the body to gravity. Shavasana is actually very important. It really is sort of the yin to the yang of the practice. It is the opposite. It is what helps to rejuvenate us and allow the practice to kind of get absorbed and the body to kind of recalculate based on the practice. So it's how we restore after practice and create transition back into our lives. But for now, go ahead and just bring your palms together in front of the heart. Close the eyes. Just let your legs be crossed. Take a moment to check in with yourself. Notice how you're feeling. Notice if anything has shifted during your practice. Notice your breath. And then we'll close with just a simple bow forward. The light in me recognizes and honors the light in you wherever you are. Thank you so much for taking the time to share a practice with me today. Namaste.